Go ahead, come on in here because we need to talk about Chelsea and Kwame from season 4 of Love is Blind on Netflix. Hey, everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, Keandra Jackson, licensed marriage and family therapist here. Listen, if you are new here, hey, but if you know how this situation goes, you know that I got to give my disclaimer, which is listen, if you have not watched season 4, Love is Blind on Netflix, press pause. Go on over to Netflix, binge watch the whole season, spin the block, come back, and then watch this review video because they're going to be spoiler alerts all up, in, through, and around here, and I don't want you mad at me. The second disclaimer that I want to give, because if you haven't watched all of the other breakdowns of the couples that I have done this far, I want to remind you guys that these are real people. So even though I am a real licensed therapist in real life, I also know that these are real humans that have lives and hearts and minds and emotions. And I try to create these videos and content to kind of help y'all as viewers understand the relationship from a therapist perspective, from a professional perspective, but also too, I want to be cautious and know that if they ever were to watch one of these videos, they wouldn't feel like I was dragging them. But they will be like, that Keandra girl, that therapist, she on point. Just know I got a little bit more tact and respect in my videos than some of these other people who are making Love is Blind videos and their reviews that are just ridiculous. So the way this one is gonna go, we're gonna talk about the pods. We are going to talk about the first little meet and greet after they got engaged and seeing each other for the first time. We're gonna talk about Mexico, AKA the honeymoon, as I like to call it. We're gonna talk about the apartment living when they came together to live together. Then we're gonna talk about the wedding and the reunion. So let's talk about the pods with Chelsea and Kwame. I firmly believe that these two had a really good connection. Honestly, Chelsea was chill. She was relaxed. I felt like she was laid back and honest and truthful, and that she was really there for the right reasons. I think there are some people who get on shows, this show included, this season included, and they are just trying to be on shows because of the fame, the glitz, the glamour, and all of those things. But it seems like Chelsea was really there to see if she can find the love of her life. And according to her, she felt like she did. I can always appreciate a woman who is open about their family, their background, and even their own desires to have children and, you know, the things that they want in their life as far as passions, wants, needs, desires, goals. I feel like she completely conveyed that in a healthy manner. I also feel like Kwame was very the same, considerate. They really conveyed him in a light of being creative. You know, he always talked about traveling the world and playing soccer and singing and being on his little guitar and writing songs and singing, like all of these things. And so I think that he was a pretty cool dude. Like, I didn't see any major red flags with him in the pods with him and Chelsea. I do believe that, which we're gonna talk about later too, that him and Micah equally, or maybe even a little bit more, this is my personal opinion, so don't judge me, had a connection and a vibe. Because once Micah came to Kwame and said, I think we need to explore our other options, bro was hurt. Do y'all remember that? His feelings were hurt to the point where he went back, put his head down. He was low-key crying or high-key crying. Like, you don't just cry over somebody that you didn't see a future with. And I firmly believe that even though he stated on the reunion episode that they were already kind of like coming apart or like not being eye to eye or seeing eye to eye, him and Micah, and that they were on the verge of like separating and, you know, not being together anyway. But I feel like you wouldn't be doing all of the extra crying and stuff if you didn't potentially see yourself proposing to her or being together. And so I don't know, that's a little up in the air for me. And so Kwame and Chelsea, they were cute in the pods, but I do think that there's a little more to it that they are not really telling us. While we're here and talking about Micah, I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all. I'm gonna be honest. I think that Micah and Kwame had a better connection. I also feel like Micah is shooting herself in the foot a little bit because we know that her and Paul didn't make it of staying married, okay? Paul said no. And so I'm wondering if she has any regrets. I'm wondering in her head if she was ever like, dang, I should have chose Kwame. And I think if she would have chose Kwame would have been with her, and Kwame would have proposed to her, and they would have both said yes at the altar. That's just my personal opinion. I don't care what y'all gotta say. But moving on to Mexico, aka the honeymoon. Actually, before I even go there, I just have to say this because it is really just on me, and I just have to get it out. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I firmly believe that there is something up with these white blonde women who pursue and want to be chosen by Black men on this show. And not just in season 4, this season, but also previous seasons as well. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but I just have to say it and get it off my chest because I do think that that is a thing. And I'm not sure how honest these women are being with their attraction to particularly men of color. I think that it's something that we might want to pay a little bit more closer attention to later on, moving on in other seasons. So let's talk about Mexico, because this is when it starts to get juicy. It starts to get really juicy when Chelsea and Kwame have a conversation about how Kwame plans to have a conversation with Micah. Okay, Chelsea seemed cool with it. She was like, okay, that's fair. Y'all did have a relationship. Y'all did, kiki, have a vibe, all of those things. So I'm not concerned about my husband or husband to be at that point, husband to be talking to Micah. But when they had a conversation and when Micah had a little jab and basically said, a failed engagement or whatever the case may be, it got a little turned up. And it got a little turned up because one, everybody was drunk. I'm talking about wasted. They all were turned up. But also two, Micah and Kwame had a lot of a very long conversation, right? Instead of it just being a quick, 5-minute, 10-minute or less situation, they were talking for 20 plus minutes. And not only were they talking, but they were close together in the pool and she was touching him and Kwame, and he was all kikiing with her and looking her in the eye. I said, oh, there's clearly some physical attraction here. There's clearly some sexual energy here that we need to address, and that they are clearly into one another. And so I can understand Chelsea being upset and frustrated and walking away and being mad about that, and knowing that she needed to have a conversation with Micah and a separate conversation with Kwame too, because this was unacceptable. And it made her look away. It made her low-key be embarrassed. If I was her, I experienced secondhand embarrassment for her, because it's like, man, you got me out here looking like Boo-Boo the Fool. You over here kikiing with Micah, and you're engaged with me. To be honest, I noticed that Chelsea, I don't want to say that she was obsessed with Kwame, but I feel like she liked him more than he liked her. She became jealous of their interaction, and I believe that this is when things started to go downhill. And when I say downhill, we know that clearly they wind up staying together and getting married. Spoiler alert. But I also feel like there was just a decline in their connection. Even in Mexico, I felt like Kwame shifted his communication. And I feel like he shifted his communication after the Micah incident. Kwame does this thing where when something gets difficult for him, or he has to kind of like assert himself or check himself, he smiles and chuckles a little bit like, it's like, no, this isn't a funny moment, sir. Like, fix your face. This is a moment to be serious. I know that it can be awkward to assert yourself and to express your thoughts and feelings, especially when something isn't favorable. But that nervous, awkward smile laugh that he does, I was like, oh, this is apparent. This is a no for me, dog. One of the things that I noticed very early on, and like I mentioned in another video about these couples, we often look at what they say as a thing and, the words that they express, but there is something in the psychology world called meta communication. What that means is we looking at what you're not saying, okay? We're looking at your eye contact, your body language, how you position yourself, proximity, closeness, distance. We're looking at all of those things. And I've seen every single time that Chelsea leaned in to kiss Kwame, he would kiss her and then pull back. Like, his body language would be like, he wasn't all into it like, yeah, baby. He would pull back. His body language would be like separate. And I noticed that not only in Mexico, but when they went and started living in the apartments and all of those things too. I was like, there's something up with his body language that isn't conveying to me that he is 100% sold into this relationship. But one thing that they were open about was their sex life. Okay, Chelsea has no problem saying that Kwame puts it down in the bed and she's satisfied, which is cool. You know, do your thing, sis. Do your thing, bro. Enjoy, live your best life. But they were very open about their sex life and all of those things. And I think they were the most open about their sex life compared to any other couple on the show. Other couples were a little bit more reserved and pulled back and saying, well, you know, we may or may not have, or, you know, we're practicing, we're tiptoeing, we're going slow. You know, they had a little bit more tact with the sex part. But these two, they had a whole photo shoot butt naked, essentially. Okay, they weren't butt naked, but they had on underwear. And so I guess that was Chelsea's fantasy of wanting to have engagement photos when her and her partner basically essentially just had on underwear. Do you, boo? Do you? Let's talk about this apartment life, right? Where they are living together, being together, getting incorporated into each other's life. They're going back into the real world with like their work and all of those situations. It felt very much to me that Chelsea and Kwame did not talk about some of the hard things. Now they may have, and they just may not have showed it on TV for us to see. But I felt like things about like lifestyle, because Kwame always talked about, I want to travel. You know, I lived, overseas for 6 months. There's a certain lifestyle. I like to run with my shirt off in the summertime and play soccer. You know, like he has a particular lifestyle that he wanted or seemed to want to maintain. And Chelsea had a completely different lifestyle. Kwame seemed like he had more flexibility, more freedom to be able to do what he wanted and needed to do. And Chelsea's life was centered around her work. She worked long hours. She didn't work from home or have that type of flexibility. And so there had to be some type of compromise. I think there was compromise around lifestyle, where they were going to live, because it seemed like he was like, yo, you can come to me, and she was like, nah, you need to come here. So it was just a weird space of them figuring out where exactly they wanted to live if they were going to make this thing work. And the cool part is that, you know, Chelsea's family seemed to really like Kwame. Like, I didn't see any red flags with that. It seemed like they were honest and truthful about, you know, her finding someone, and she spoke very highly of him to her family. Like, that was cool. But we all know that Kwame's family had a little bit more difficulty with his decision to marry Chelsea than what her family did. Kwame's mom was like, nah, bro, it's a no for me. You know, Kwame talked about his mom, just essentially growing up and his mom being really, really, you know, there for him. And talked about, you know, him coming from a West African family and being from Ghana, but also the extra layer of being Christian. And so there are just certain values and customs and things that comes culturally, but also things that come spiritually. The way that they explained their mother about her being Christian and being super spiritual, like, I know that she wasn't for the fornication, okay? If she is a woman of God, hallelujah, if she is a woman of faith, like they said and expressed that she was, I'm sure that she was not okay with the way that they were talking about their sex life and how they was getting it cracking, and how Kwame barely even prayed now. And even though he grew up in a very spiritual and Christian home, sure, she took some offense to those things. And so that probably didn't make it easier for her to want to be on the show, one. And also, she wanted to be a part of her son's big day, his big moment, the process, you know. And sometimes parents feel that that moment is robbed from them when things are done in a very unorthodox way or a very unique way that isn't consistent with the customs and the traditions of a particular culture or religion. And so it wasn't clear to me if Kwame's mom and dad lived in the States or if they lived in Ghana. Like, it just wasn't clear to me. And so nevertheless, it's not any of our business, because clearly things seem to have worked out per Chelsea at the reunion. But I think that the thing that annoyed me the most about Chelsea, there was 1,000,001 moments where Chelsea kept saying, welcome to marriage. That's marriage. Welcome to marriage. It's like, girl, that is not a reason or a justification for anything. Yes, you guys will be married and all of those things, but you can't, when something gets tough, you can't say, well, welcome to marriage. Like, that's just the way it is, deal with it. That's a sufficient answer. So I can't even count the number of times I heard her say that throughout this whole season. And it was like, girl, you need another rebuttal and another response. I'm just excited and happy that Kwame had some sort of support from his family. Now, his sister seemed to be amazing, and all of the castmates, even Vanessa on the reunion show was like, your sister was everything. She wasn't a paid actor. And so I guess there were people who assumed that that wasn't his sister or something of that nature. But I'm glad that Kwame has somebody in his corner and that his brother and his sister showed up to support him, even when his mom and dad couldn't. I think that goes a long way. I think that that's mad respect. I think that that really helped to solidify Chelsea and her future sister-in-law's connection for just being present and showing up. And I'm so glad that he had somebody on his team and on his side. Let's talk about this wedding, because I honestly was convinced that Kwame was saying no. I just knew in my heart of hearts, in my spirit, in my shanana, that this man was going to say no. I knew Chelsea was saying yes, because I just knew, like, we knew, okay? But Kwame, I was like, he gonna say no. He gonna say no. And when he said yes, I was shooketh, okay? I felt like he was going to say no, because this man didn't even prepare any vows. You can't just wing. I mean, you could, because he did, and there's probably plenty of other people who do that. But you can't just wing one of the biggest moments of your life. What if you get too nervous and you forget no, I'm not leaving this up to chance. I am going to write something, have, memorized it or something. But he was just saying whatever came to his mind in the moment. And Chelsea was just like, yes, just soaking it all in. She's little, so she's looking up to him like, yes. She was soaking it all in. I'm like, girl, this man did not write you any vows. Like, what is going on? Nevertheless, to fast forward to the reunion part, clearly Kwame and Chelsea are still currently married over a year later. They appear to be extremely happy, color coordinated with a pink situation on. One thing that I did notice about Kwame was that there was a new look to his hair. If you know what I'm trying to say, there was a new hairline at the reunion. And so I'm here for whatever makes him happy and boost his confidence. Like, they're in a good place. It seems like Kwame's family has welcomed Chelsea in. She said she met the mom and the family and his nieces and nephews, and they spend, Thanksgiving and the holidays together. That's so great. I'm so happy. And it seems like they were able to dispel any myths about the Micah situation fairly conveniently. I think that there was more to it that Micah wanted to say, because her facial expression was like, that's not really it, but I'm gonna let you think that it's it. And she also got very teary-eyed in certain moments where she was talking about Kwame. She got more teary-eyed talking about the Kwame situation than she did about Paul, to be honest with you. I just think that there were more feelings that she had, more unresolved issues that she was just quiet about and didn't really want to speak on, or didn't speak on, or chose not to speak on. And we may never know. But I do firmly believe that Micah had a little bit more that she wanted to say, but didn't do so on the reunion show. Nevertheless, I'm happy for Chelsea and Kwame. I hope they continue to stay married. I hope they continue to figure out all of these issues and just be reminded that whatever happened in the pods and on the show and in Mexico and things of that nature, it's TV, one, but also two, it's a whole year plus behind them, and they have to focus on the here and now. They have to focus on their current relationship, their current marriage, and let all of the other outside noise, even from us and the people and the spectators and the viewers, block all of that out and tune into your partner, because the real work starts now. The real work starts in the marriage. That wedding and all of the glitz in the show and all of that stuff, that's cute. But are you putting in the time, effort, energy, the tools, the resources, the techniques to have a successful, happy marriage? That's what really matters to me. Thank you again for taking the opportunity to watch another review show for Love is Blind Season 4 on Netflix. Make sure to check out the other reviews that I have for the other couples. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.